I hated this movie. I really hated it because of what it did to me in here. It was a great movie. So, like Saving Mr. Banks, where Tom Hanks played Walt Disney, do not expect this movie to be a biography about Mr. Rogers. Again, like Saving Mr. Banks, this is a movie about a certain point in Mr. Rogers' life. And it comes from the perspective of a journalist who is trying to do an article on heroes, and his editor tells him to do one on, of all people, Mr. Rogers. This reporter is somebody who is jaded. He is an angry man for good reasons. He has a lot of resentment and a lot of anger built up in him. And he becomes growingly intrigued as he gets to know Fred Rogers through a small series of meeting with him. And you can see as the movie progresses, Mr. Rogers changes not only his life, but his heart, like he did with so many others. I did not watch Mr. Rogers growing up. In fact, the most knowledge I have of Mr. Rogers is from the documentary that came out last year called Won't You Be My Neighbor? And that really turned me on to him. I became intrigued to the point that I would like to find DVDs and videos of Mr. Rogers to show my kids, because I think that he is probably one of the world's greatest examples of kindness that this generation has had the pleasure of seeing. And let me get it out there. Tom Hanks obviously nails it. I don't think we can really find a role that he's played where he doesn't nail it. But I've thought about this, and I have to say, this is the one role where I lose Tom Hanks. It does take a few minutes to adjust to Tom Hanks being Mr. Rogers, but at some point I realized I'm not seeing Tom Hanks anymore. And I couldn't hear his voice, nothing. It was just, he was Mr. Rogers, which means that this just might be his best role to me anyway. And I think we all have our favorite Tom Hanks roles. And this just might be it for me, because I don't see Tom Hanks, and he does the job of an actor where he presents himself in front of the camera, but is able to create the illusion of disappearing. This was a hard movie to watch. I wasn't really exaggerating at the beginning of my video where I was saying I hated it, but at the same time it's a great movie. This was a hard movie to watch, and this will be a hard movie to watch for a lot of guys my age who have issues with family relationships, who have resentment from their childhood, who are dealing with a lot of just who they are and trying to deal with being a family man, a husband, a father. And the words that were spoken by Mr. Rogers in this movie were very moving. They were not hard to hear, but they were hard to accept because they're filled with so much kindness and love. And it was a difficult movie. I'm going to say, I was in that theater and I was crying quite a bit. And that's good. That's good when a movie can do that. Usually when I see a movie that makes me cry, I'm excited to see it again because it's sometimes good to have that emotion. This one cut pretty deep into me for a lot of personal reasons. And I can't help but think that it will be the same for a lot of people. If this were a movie about anybody else other than Mr. Rogers, it would have come across as very sappy, hallmarky, and flat out laughable. But it did not even come close to being any of those things. It was of the highest caliber of genuine filmmaking. This movie was the equivalent of a very good therapy session. This movie makes me want to know a little bit more about Mr. Rogers and maybe even be a little bit more like him. I absolutely loved this movie. It did its job in showing us that good people have and can and do exist. And they're the quiet ones. They're the ones that kind of blend in the background. But Mr. Rogers had the situation thrown upon him where he was able to show his love and kindness through millions of TV sets across the world. And I think we're really lucky to have somebody like him. This is definitely a tearjerker for me. And I'm going to put this on my list of tearjerkers. It's going to be the third one down. I cried a lot harder in My Dog Skip. I cried quite a bit in Toy Story 4. And again, these are movies that I have reviewed for this channel, not all the movies that I consider tearjerkers. I put this third only because there wasn't a specific one scene that made me lose it. I was just kind of crying throughout. And it was a lot of scenes where no one else, I don't think, would find emotionally impacting. It just, for some reason, impacted me specifically. And I think in time, this movie could go up to the number 1 or 2 slots of tearjerkers. But for now, I'm going to keep it as 3. I'm just going to be very conservative about it just because I've only seen it once. And who knows, it might not affect me the same way again. I'm not sure. But I do know that with Toy Story 4 and My Dog Skip, I cry every time. I really do recommend this movie for everybody. I can't think of a single demographic or person that will not benefit from seeing this movie in some way, shape, or form. Please, go see it. And again, it's one of those movies that there's no big explosions. It's not part of a bigger saga. It's a small little movie that needs to be seen on the big screen so that we can support our movie theaters. Support our movie theaters. Let Hollywood and our movie theaters know that we still want to see these small little movies on big screens. Thank you for watching Beanlight Reviews, where I talk about movies of every genre, age, and style. And if you like this video, click the thumbs up down below, smash the subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell to get alerts for upcoming videos. It was a great movie. Damn it.